No, those are not shards of crystal meth that I'm sprinkling onto the nose cone, but I will show you how the salt weathering technique works later on in the video. Welcome back to another Scale Model Assassin video. This is one of Eduard's limited edition MiG kits that comes with 2 planes to build and about 30 marking options to choose from. But the real gem in this box is the book that's filled with images of the actual aircraft options that you can build. It was nice not having to spend hours scouring the internet for reference photos on this one. I decided to build the Lovec Tygru version. The name means Tiger Hunter and is part of a friendly rivalry between 2 sister squadrons. Additionally, it had the Eduard Knight logo painted on the tail of the aircraft, like the actual aircraft, not just because Eduard thought it would look cool for their kit. You can find the September 2011 edition of their catalog and read a nice article with more details about this plane. Like about how it used to have an eagle holding a decapitated tiger head painted on it until someone undoubtedly was offended. Now this was all back in the early 90s, but sounds familiar today, right? This plane has been sitting in a box for the past year since I built it at the same time as the first one in the kit. I hit the pause button once I had the exterior primed, and then I picked it back up this year and started with the black gloss coat. The engine assembly is rather dull. You can spice things up if you want to get the aftermarket resin parts, but here's a view looking down the tube with a flashlight, which is about the only way you can see the engine once the thing is fully built. The engineering on this kit is superb, and the fuselage and wings fit together in a way that minimizes the annoying task of filling and sanding seam lines. The drop tank has a seam line which I scraped and melted away with glue so as to preserve the intentional raised lines on the tank. I used salt weathering on the nose cone, which entails spraying very thin layers of white and black in between steps of fixing rock salt in place with water. In the end, there should be a mottled and worn tone, which, if it's overdone, can be dulled down with a thin layer of the original base coat, which in this case was XF5 flat green. I used Mr. Surfacer 1000 as my primer, and then multiple coats of gloss black. Everything up until this point was done about a year ago when I built it at the same time as the first MiG. The first coat had some imperfections, so I lightly sanded it with a sanding cloth, wiped off the residue, and sprayed another coat. Once I was satisfied with the smoothness, I sprayed a final coat of mostly leveling thinner with a tiny bit of black mixed in, which helps give it the smooth mirror finish. I didn't want to use any polish since there are rivets and panel lines all over this thing, and the polish would get caught in the recesses, and it's just a bunch of extra work to clean everything up. All clad paints were my choice for this plane, and I spray them directly from the bottle while building up many thin layers, with duraluminum as my base aluminum color. I'll mask off various sections and access panels and spray other shades of aluminum. With these other colors like steel, it only takes 1 or 2 passes with the airbrush to achieve the shading difference. I don't want to fully saturate the specific sections with those colors, then it just looks way overdone. In some areas like the wings, I accidentally overdid it. So I sprayed a final layer of my base color, which was duraluminum, which helps unify the different shades so they don't stand out too much. The natural metal finish was smooth enough, so I didn't use a gloss coat before applying the decals. I also tend to slice the decals along the panel lines to guarantee that they sink in. I did this shortly after applying the microsol and before they were completely set. It's a risky move because it's very easy to damage the decals, push them out of alignment, and wrinkle them. The kit has a lot of spares of this Czech emblem, so I wasn't too worried when I ruined one. I also poked out the rivet holes and cut around the access panels on the wing emblems. Just to be sure, use a brand new blade when making all these cuts. It'll make your life easier. This is a special edition aircraft from the Czech Air Force, and so yes, that is the Eduard mascot decal on the tail. There was not a spare one of these, so I was a bit more nervous slicing it up, but it turned out fine. I protected the decals and finish with a coat of all-clad aqua gloss and then applied an oil wash which can be rubbed off with paper towels anywhere from a few minutes to 1 or 2 weeks later. If you decide to sand the wheels to show the weight of the aircraft, then the alignment of the rims and struts becomes important. I glued the wheels on, and while the glue was still drying, I flipped the plane over, rotated the wheels around to make sure the flat spots were even on the ground. This was actually quite challenging based on the engineering and construction on the parts of this kit. Using a toothpick to help loosen the canopy masks helps avoid scratching the surface with metal tweezers or a blade from a knife. This was an out-of-the-box build, except for the tiny bit of copper wire that I just attached. There was a lot of amazingly small and detailed parts included in this box, particularly considering that it's 1/72 scale. It'll keep you busy for a while. As I mentioned earlier, this is the second MiG that I built out of the kit. If you want to see the first one, I added a link in the video description below. Spoiler alert, the first half of that video is very similar to the first half of this video, because until you start painting the exterior of the aircraft, it's nearly identical. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.